Oregon, with its stunning coastline and national forests, is operating a penitentiary that is almost as old as the state itself. The prison has housed some of the most dangerous men in the history of Oregon, and for much of its existence, was the only operating prison in the state. Let's explore the infamous and historic Oregon State Penitentiary. We'll start by checking out the area surrounding the prison. The prison is located in Salem, Oregon, the state capital. It is situated in the Willamette Valley, a highly fertile plain between three mountain ranges and home to Oregon wine country. Salem has a population of 175,535, making it the third largest city in the state behind Portland and Eugene. With average highs in the mid-80s during the summer and upper 40s in the winter, it is best described as having a Mediterranean climate. Although we'll be focusing on the oldest penitentiary in the state, Salem is also home to the oldest operating psychiatric hospital in Oregon, Oregon State Hospital, which is directly north of the prison. The hospital is best known as the filming location for the cinema classic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, starring Jack Nicholson. Much like Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, the city has grown substantially around the prison. This wasn't the original facility. In fact, there were two prior to the current structure. The prison has been on the current site since 1866 and was the only prison in Oregon until 1959. The facility is currently a multi-mission institution, meaning it serves different security levels. For most of its history, it served as a solely maximum security institution. In 1991, a unit was constructed at the prison called the Intensive Management Unit, which was meant to be the supermax unit for the state. It had 196 beds and was criticized by many in the state of being too harsh. The IMU was reclassified in 2009, and its inmates moved to another facility. It would become a mental health unit, putting those with already severe mental health issues in a unit that could make their symptoms even worse. Oregon State Penitentiary also operates a 233-bed special management unit or administrative segregation for those who disrupt or pose a substantial threat to the general population in all department facilities. The facility sits on 194 acres, with 22 of those being inside the walls. The prison has a 25-foot reinforced concrete wall that surrounds it, with 10 towers watching over the facility. The rated capacity for the prison is 2,222, which seems a bit unlucky if you ask me. The facility is separated into 12 living areas. The largest housing units at the prison are D and E block, each holding about 560 inmates. Built in the old prison block style, they have 5 tiers with 40 cells each. Each cell is double bunked. These old block style cells are notorious for not allowing staff to observe inmate activity unless directly in front of each cell. 2 correctional officers and 1 sergeant are expected to supervise 1 block. In 2019, the average daily population was 2,099, with an average length of stay of just over 31 months, or 2.5 years. The average age at the facility is 43. There are 255 correctional officers to maintain the security of the facility. In total, the prison operates with 570 staff. The staff is unionized and represented by the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which is the largest union for corrections staff. At Oregon State Penitentiary, inmates have several job options, including the call center, laundry, metal shop, and furniture factory. The facility also has inmate clubs that offenders are able to participate in. A few of the clubs are 7th Step Club, Asian Club, AVP, and Family First. The aim of the clubs is to provide opportunity for positive focus on improvement and idleness reduction. The state of Oregon has made a push to offer more substance abuse treatment at Oregon State Penitentiary. The 2023 budget includes $8.7 million in funding for treatment at the facility. Let's now take a look at some major incidents at the facility. In 1974, Carl Bowles was allowed a 4-hour social pass to a Salem motel. Bowles wasn't your average inmate. He was serving a life sentence for murder and kidnapping. Why a social pass would be granted for this inmate seems ludicrous. Bowles would escape custody while on the pass and kill 2 people before being caught in Idaho. The prison warden at the time admitted he made a mistake. In 2011, the prison was placed on lockdown after a series of gang-related fights, which led to 100 inmates being injured. correctional officers had to fire 4 warning shots to end one melee in the recreation yard. White and Latino gangs were blamed for the violence. It was alleged that one inmate went into another rival's cell and kicked him in the head, sparking 3 days of retaliation. This wasn't the largest disturbance at the prison. In March 1968, the prison would be taken over by the offenders, with hostages being taken and fires being set. After 3 days, it would be taken back by staff. More large fights would occur at the prison in 2016, 2017, and 2020. These incidents are expected at a maximum security prison, and Oregon State Penitentiary is no different. In January 2018, Michael Barton, an inmate in the mental health unit of the prison, died of the flu, which you would think the infirmary at the prison could handle. Well, maybe they could have if they actually treated him. Barton collapsed and died after making numerous requests to see medical staff over the course of a few weeks. Barton's family would sue the state for $15 million, alleging that prison staff failed to provide adequate treatment and attempted to cover up their errors. The family would settle for $2.75 million in 2020. Oregon DOC would comment on the settlement. The death of any adult in DOC is tragic, but the death of Mr. Barton was also needless and preventable. This should never have happened to any adult in our custody, and for that, we sincerely apologize. For years prior to this death, there had been reports coming out of the prison of offenders dying of mysterious causes. It was reported by local news that 20 inmates had died in 2015 and 2016 while in custody, including 27-year-old James Howland. He passed away after overdosing on synthetic marijuana. In September 2020, wildfires would be raging near several state prisons, risking the safety and security of not only the public, but the inmates there. They would move 1,400 men from Mill Creek, Santiam, and Oregon State Correctional Institution to Oregon State Penitentiary. The penitentiary was operating at capacity, and with the added inmates, was operating at 4,000 offenders. This means security levels were being mixed, putting low security offenders with maximum security offenders already housed there. During this time, there were numerous fights and a stabbing. An Oregon DOC spokesperson said, "These wildfires have created an incredibly difficult situation for Oregonians, and the Department of Corrections has not escaped the impact of this emergency. The corruption at prisons can be extreme, and Oregon State Penitentiary has had its fair share. One unlikely scandal at the prison involves staff and their computer access. Staff were using computers for their own personal business. One officer responded to over 10,000 personal emails in just 6 months. Another officer installed software on the computer to access inappropriate images and videos while on the clock. It gets worse. The superintendent of the prison, Brandon Kelly, would resign in 2022. He had been in charge of the facility since 2016. He was having a romantic relationship with another staff member and given her preferential treatment. Prior to Kelly resigning, and while he was on administrative leave, he was being paid his normal salary of $14,238 a month. Quite the sum for a public servant. Now that we have touched on some incidents at the prison, let's check out some inmates there. Before we move on, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you can go on this journey with me as we profile every prison across America. Oregon State Penitentiary held death row for the state until 2020 when it was closed. That same year, Governor Kate Brown commuted all death row sentences to life in prison, which moved the 17 men into general population. Let's check out 2 current infamous inmates and the longest ever serving inmate. Keith Jesperson, aka the Happy Face Killer, was confirmed to have killed 8 women, but confessed to 185 murders. He was apprehended in 1995 and is currently serving a life sentence at Oregon State Penitentiary. Christian Longo, one of the men that was on death row and had his sentence commuted to life, was convicted of killing his wife and 3 children. He would go on the run and be caught in Mexico. The story would be put on the big screen in the movie True Story, starring James Franco and Jonah Hill. The longest person to be incarcerated at Oregon State Penitentiary was Jerry Brutus. He was convicted of murdering 3 women and confessed to the murder of a 4th woman. Brutus went to prison in 1969 and would die at the prison in 2006, making him the longest serving inmate there at 37 years. This was a chasing crime profile of Oregon State Penitentiary. Be sure to check out my other prison profiles by clicking the link here. Thanks for watching. As always, see you next time.